This is actually one of the panels that I am most excited about. Has anybody been up to the Central Florida area to Crystal River? I went with Dara. We took her nieces paddling and swimming with manatees last year, and honestly, I didn't want to go swimming with manatees. I was like, no, I don't belong in there. I want to paddle. I want to see them, but I don't want to be swimming with them. I feel that's a little too invasive. But we ended up going, and it was fabulous. We went for a paddle, and I noticed all of this lush green seagrass everywhere. And I knew that we needed that seagrass here. And as I was walking around, I was like, oh man, this is what Biscayne Bay needs to be. And I walked in a park, Kings Bay Park or something like that. And I saw a nice little educational sign talking about Save Crystal River. So I took a picture of it, and I went back home and I looked it up. And I noticed and I read and learned about their recovery efforts, which were only about 5-6 years ago that they really started investing and solving their problems caused by excessive nutrient load, the same problems, the algae growth, the same similar problems to what we have here in Biscayne Bay. And I was thinking, boy, if we can just do what they did, that'd be fantastic. And so when we held the summit, I wanted to invite those folks so that they could tell us what they did and what can we learn from them. So I am super excited that Lisa Moore and Carter Henne, yes, excellent, decided to join us. They drove down today to tell us what they have done in their own community and inspire us to do the same things here. So Lisa Moore is the CEO of Gulf Atlantic Industrial Equipment and president of Save Crystal River, Inc. In 2015, the Florida legislature appropriated $1.6 million for a pilot project to begin the process of cleaning up Kings Bay. Kings Bay and the Crystal River are designated outstanding Florida waters and part of a national wildlife refuge. Kings Bay is also home to Florida's largest West Coast winter refuge for manatees. I'm going to let her tell her story more. And Carter is a partner and president of Sea and Shoreline Aquatic Restoration. He is responsible for the acquisition, management, and success of Sea and Shoreline's habitat restoration projects. He is a native Floridian with a passion for creating self-sustaining natural aquatic habitats through education and scientifically proven restoration methods. So I'm going to let them come up and tell us how they saved their backyard. Lisa, Carter?
Can you hear me? There we go. Okay, my name's Lisa Moore, and as Dave said, I'm president of Save Crystal River. We are here today. I'm here today with Carter Henne with Sea and Shoreline, and we want to tell you a little bit about our organization and about our project, the Kings Bay Restoration Project in Crystal River. Our presentation will include a little bit of history about Crystal River, a little bit of information about the importance of our community to Florida as a whole, the background of what happened to Kings Bay, how we're fixing the problem, and our results in the current status of our project. So, Save Crystal River is a 501c3 nonprofit corporation made up entirely of volunteers. All of us got together as friends and neighbors and decided to try to save our river. There's only about 18 of us, and this is friends, neighbors, business owners, anyone who cared about saving Crystal River. Our commitment is to restore and protect not only the waters of Crystal River and their beauty and their health, but also of any place in Florida that needs our help, that we can help them restore theirs, not only for our generation, but in future generations. So you can see on the map, Crystal River, for those of you who don't know, is located about 80 miles north of Tampa on Florida's Nature's Coast. So why is Crystal River so important to the state of Florida? Well, as Dave kind of led you to believe there, it is our water and our springs. Kings Bay is about 600 acres and makes up the second largest spring system in the state of Florida. The water flows 7 miles down the Crystal River into the Gulf of Mexico to one of the 2 largest seagrass areas in the entire North America. The area is now also part of an aquatic preserve. This first magnitude spring system discharges about 630 million gallons of water every single day. So as you know, water is extremely important in the state of Florida. Kings Bay is also known as the home of manatees. We shelter and feed one of the country's largest population of manatees. And this year, the count on a single day was 1,383 manatees in our little area, our little river and our little bay. We fed every one of them a lot of eelgrass. They ate as much as they wanted, and they were very happy. They're very fat. It's kind of funny, they do an annual assessment. USGS does the annual assessment, and Bob Bondi said that they are some of the healthiest manatees in the state of Florida. That's because they have a lot of food to eat. So almost 40 years ago, in 1983, Florida designated Crystal River and Kings Bay as an outstanding Florida waterway. In our view, if you're going to call something an outstanding Florida waterway, it should look like one. And our river at this point did not. So beginning in the 1960s, the problem kind of started going downhill. Kings Bay was beautiful, pristine. I moved there then in the 60s with my family. The power plants came to town. They built 4 coal plants and 1 nuclear plant. That brought in an awful lot of people. The people needed homes. So a lot of homes were built, canals were dug. A lot of those homes had septic tanks. So that kind of started the process. The runoff and the nutrient flow to the river increased, and the invasive plant life started. It was brought to town on boats. Hydrilla began to take over our entire river. It got very thick. You could barely get a boat through the water without having to reverse the motor. There was so much hydrilla. So they started using herbicides, and the herbicides, of course, killed the hydrilla in many places, and then it dropped to the bottom and started to decay. But in 1993, nature kind of gave us a knockout punch. The no-name storm hit our coastline in the middle of the night, and it threw so much salt water into our community. It completely covered everything west of Highway 19 and even some things on the other side. So much salt water was brought in and stayed for so long that the hydrilla all died and mountains of it sank to the bottom of the river. I don't think anybody really knew the devastation that was going to happen, but it just stayed down there and rotted, and the decomposition process took over. Over the next several years, a slimy, green, invasive blue-green algae called Lingbia took over the ecosystem. We no longer had healthy plants. We had an awful lot of devastating algae growing all over the place. It looked like a giant sewer had overflowed and taken away all of our clean, clear water. And it turned into just pea soup. It was ugly and it smelled. Oxygen, water was depleted, and the loss of habitat caused a collapse of the food chain. We lost everything. We lost our fish. We lost the crabs. We had blue crabs everywhere. They were just gone. Even some species of birds just weren't there anymore. A lot of the water birds, there was nothing to eat. This is what we were left with. This is what our beautiful, clear, eelgrass covered river turned into about 10 years after the storm was over. Dark mats of Lingbia blanketed the entire bay, and it was hanging off of every seawall, boat slip, even trees that touched the water. The Lingbia was hanging off of them. Dogs that came by there would eat it and get sick. People got rashes. You couldn't even see 2 feet in front of you when you went into the water. So once upon a time, back when I was a kid, you could go to the springs in Crystal River and drop a quarter and watch it go all the way to the bottom of a 60-foot spring. That was gone. We didn't have it anymore. This is a little bit of video that we took. I don't know if it's going to work. At the beginning of our project, we thought it was very important to document where we started. And not only did we document where we started, but all throughout the project, every year we had an independent analysis from a biologist that came in and used DEP methods, measured and studied what progress was or was not being made as we went through each year of our project. So as you can imagine, this process, see if it'll go forward. Oh, you got it going. So this was every canal, this was the bay. And you can see what I mean when I said it looks like the surface of the moon. It smelled horrible. Big mats would break loose and float to the top of the water. It smelled horrible. It just was not what we were used to. So the process began with 2010. Everybody realized we had a disaster on our hands. We really didn't know what to do about it. So people got out there with yard rakes and we started raking our beach. We started raking shallow spots in the canal. We were trying anything. We've had kayaks and pontoon boats out there. We were piling this nasty Lingbia on top of it, trying to get it out of our river. And obviously, we realized in a short time, we can't rake 600 acres. So we had to come up with a new plan. And so in 2012, we formed Save Crystal River and started researching better methods to create better results. We didn't know the answer to the problem. So we went to the Water Management District and they didn't know either. We went to universities, a bunch of them, and a lot of theories, but we did not have a solution. With the County Aquatic Management Department. And then finally, we just started Googling everything on the internet, trying to come up with, what do we do about this? Finally, in 2014, we heard about a restoration project that involved planting grass in an imperiled waterway. So we started talking to Sea and Shoreline about a process that might be able to help us save our river. By 2015, we had a plan to clean 92 acres of our waterways, but we needed funding and lots of it. We took, in order to get attention, we took large paper boxes, like Xerox paper boxes, to every school in the county. And we asked them to please ask students, teachers, parents, community members, please help us by writing letters to our legislators so that we can take these letters to Tallahassee and ask them to help us with our problem. That year, we took 22 boxes of letters and postcards and pictures. The kindergartners could only draw the pictures. And we took more than 7,000 documents to Tallahassee and showed it to the DEP and the state legislature and said, please help us fund this. We also took 50 jars of Lingbia up there and passed those around. wanted to make sure they knew what we were dealing with. We also, that same year, after we went to Tallahassee, we went door to door to every state legislator within driving distance of our town. We tried to tell everybody what our problem was and ask for help. We were lucky. That year, they funded us with the $1.6 million to start our pilot project, and we were able to start with 3.4 acres. Sea and Shoreline had come to rescue us, and we never looked back. Every year since then, because of the success of the project, the legislature has continued to fund our project. We go back every year during Citrus County Legislative Days, and we go around to every legislator that's not only in our district, but every person up there that will let us in the door. And we give them an update. We write an annual report. We ask them for continued funding, and we thank them for their continuing support for our project. We even ask them to come to Crystal River and see for themselves, and many of them have, and we're hoping many more do. We set a goal too. I think it's always important when you start a project, set a goal. Our goal was to complete our project, our 92 acres, by July 3rd, 2023. That is a 100th year anniversary of the city of Crystal River. And we said, by then we want our river back. So with a little more funding, we're almost there. We're going to make it. So, yeah. But do you think we'd be satisfied with that? We're already in permitting process to permit another 72 acres. We're going to keep going. Everything that we haven't already done, we're going to keep going. We're going to get it all done. At least now we know it can be done. So the approach that we use is really Carter's area of expertise, but I'm just going to say that the Lingbia was so deep, it was 5 to 7 feet deep in some areas in the river, a lot of the canals. They took all that out, and then they replaced it with native eelgrass with cool names like Rockstar and Salty Dog. Who didn't love that? Cages were placed over the new eelgrass to protect it from predation and maintained. And our county and our city stepped up too and provided the money every year since then to continue the maintenance on the project. We didn't want it to go backwards. So we wanted to continue the maintenance, and as we move through, don't let something go wrong with what we had just finished cleaning. The only thing we asked from Sea and Shoreline is please don't put any wild harvested plants in our community. We had already had enough problems. We didn't need any more. So they grow their own grass, and it's very healthy, and you can see it in our river. It's gone completely wild. So we knew we had to protect the project. So we set up a number of programs to help us accomplish that goal. The maintenance and the monitoring of the grass continues through the funding from our local government. We started a responsible anchoring program where we teach people in the community about the damage that anchors and props can do to the fresh eelgrass that's growing everywhere. We even set up a fund and raise money for tour boat operators that if they would replace their anchors with power poles and spuds, then we would reimburse them. We started some wonderful programs in the schools. Eco Week every year at Crystal River Primary School. We take water from the river, sand, been cleaned and processed through our process, and eelgrass to the school. And every single child in the school plants an aquarium for their classroom. And they put eelgrass in their, they put the sand in, the water in, and the eelgrass. And they do experiments, and they watch their eelgrass all year long and learn about it. And then at the end of the year, we take the whole 5th grade out to our city beach, and they plant all of that eelgrass. And that's been going on now since the beginning of our project. We got a grant that allowed teachers to write a curriculum on eelgrass, and then we put it on our website for other teachers to use. We participated in a program called Book, Line, and Thinkers. We brought, again, the whole fifth grade down to the waterfront, gave them lessons on eelgrass, and then the local fishing guides took them fishing for the day. So that was a very popular program. We go to community outreach by going to libraries and civic clubs, festivals, and speak and try to teach people about the importance of protecting our community with eelgrass. We've done community fundraisers and raised over $350,000 from the community to continue our work. And then recently, this year, when the eelgrass starts shedding its leaves, and we're getting so much eelgrass that there is a lot of grass all over the place. It comes to the water. Okay, it comes to the top of the water and floats, and Sea and Shoreline goes out and collects it, and then they take it down to the that better? Okay, Homosassa Springs Wildlife Park and feed it to the rehabilitating manatees in captivity down there. So we're taking native natural food with a lot of nutrition down there to feed the manatees in Homosassa. So we're feeding the manatees in the wild, and we're also feeding the ones that are in distress. And then the last thing that we did was we started, we're working with the Homosassa Springs Restoration Group, and we have worked with them to help them start their restoration effort in their river, and they're now in their third year of restoring their river, doing the same thing that we're doing. They had the same problem. So it's working. These are pictures of the day that we take all the kids down to the beach, to our little city park. They take all their eelgrass down there, the fifth grade does, and they plant it with help from school board members and teachers. We've even had state senators there. The water management district has come, our mayor, everybody, teachers, parents, everybody come and help these kids plant. Then we do an anchor pull, and we set the kids up like a tug of war, and they pull the anchors across the beach. And then we tell them, when you throw an anchor in, that's what happens to the eelgrass you worked all year to grow. Yeah, so the dads are real happy that the kids don't want to throw out anchors anymore, but that's what happens. So the kids have a great day. We even had a mermaid come this year. One of the places brought a mermaid, and she helped them plant some grass. The little girl that's looking into the virtual reality goggles, that's one of our stations, and we do videos, put them in the virtual reality goggles, and it's like them living underwater and looking around and everything. They love that. And then the little boy at the end is scrubbing the cages, and we tell them about how you have to keep the light available to the plants, and so they get to scrub a cage and see what that's like. And then the best part of all is we feed them all hot dogs and chips and tons of ice cream from our local dairy, who donates it every year. Oh, by the way, Superman is a favorite flavor. So one of the things that we tell the kids when we're talking to them is, we're going to fix this problem, but you have to keep it this way. We want them to take ownership of their community river and their responsibility in the future. So remember the link video we showed you at the beginning? This is Crystal River now. This is what our river looks like. We planted over 65 acres of eelgrass, but it's already spread to over 200 acres. So it's working. We've removed them. Okay, well, they order. This is what the area looks like that was part of our project, the 92 acres. Everything in yellow is done. Everything in blue, everything in red is in the process of being done. And it changes every day because they keep moving forward. And everything in blue is all that's left. And we're going to be finished by our deadline of July of 2023. So we've removed 300 million pounds of lingbia and planted nearly 350,000 native eelgrass plants. The process that we use removes 99% of the phosphorus and 50% of the nitrogen from the water that goes through our processing system. And then, of course, there's the bonus that there's all that eelgrass for the manatees to eat. So people are finding out about our project, and we've had a lot of media show up and learn about our project. And our Senate President, Wilton Simpson, said this is a model for the state of Florida. Now, everybody's got their different problems and a little bit different here than it would be at Crystal River. So your conditions and your issues will vary, but planting grass, the basis of the food chain, has to start somewhere. We can talk a problem to death, but look what can happen when a handful of volunteers get together and make a difference. Now, this is Crystal River today. I cannot tell you how wonderful it is to see the change in this community and our river. We came back from the brink of disaster to this beautiful water, the healthy manatees. Our fish are back, our crabs are back. You want to go snook fishing, tarpon fishing, red fishing, anything, it's there, and there's a lot of it. So the beauty's back to where it was when I first moved there over 50 years ago. There's always going to be people that tell you it can't be done, but we did it, and it can happen in your community too. You just have to start somewhere and don't stop. Set a goal and finish the job. So thank you for giving me the time and the opportunity to share our story with you. If you want to know more about our project, go to savecrisriver.com or kingsbayrestorationproject.com. Or better yet, come see it for yourself because you'll be surprised. I'm going to turn it over to Carter Henney with Sea and Shoreline. He'll tell you all the science and the process behind the project.
The real key to Crystal River is the people in the community coming together, putting a plan, not taking no for an answer. I believe there should be one other slide deck there. And so what I'd love to show a little bit, the real things, the community, but there's also more in the community. It's the way they went about the program, not taking no for an answer, coming in as a partner. We're a for-profit company, and then the contracting mechanism allowed us to put everything into the project, right? Figure out problems so that it didn't take decades to really work on. We could work on the fly, and it was a great public-private partnership moving forward. And so that was really key for us to be able to assist in such a way. So I'm a huge believer in natural environmental-based solutions. I don't think that we're going to get any semblance of our state back unless we start working in areas that are urban areas, up and cut canals, stormwater conveyances, and getting some semblance of the environment back in them. And so that allows us, we do it every day, right? So we grow seagrass, plant seagrass, or grow seagrass in our nursery every day. And we cut from the West Coast down to Monroe County and all the way up to North Carolina. So it's interesting to be able to see water bodies shift from a plant-dominated community to an algae-dominated system, but it's really fun to see it go back the other way. Typically, the conversation is remove all the nutrients. Nutrients are bad when there are too many of them and they're out of place, right? Plants have incredible biomass. It's not a chicken or the egg process, right? I think of it as a chicken and the egg process. So Citrus County got on septic to sewer. They did a lot of cleanup of their urban areas and their agricultural runoff. But the issue is still there, and it's not gonna be the same for everywhere. This problem was Lingia woli. The same problem that they had in Sarasota County, this past year. It grows in anox condition, upland cut canals. And what the plants do is they compete for nutrients, but they also compete with the plant by, uptaking carbon dioxide and giving off oxygen. It chemically produces a state that the algae can't, the cyanobacteria can't exist in. I'm a huge believer in the stable state hypothesis. You have beautiful plants and beautiful water. When you get further up, you get eutrophied the water. I'm from Central Florida. We have a lot of shallow water lakes and a lot of agriculture. And you see throughout the seasons as hydrilla comes in or other native plants and lakes that are dominated with a perennial bed of grasses, they stay consistently clear. And there's been a ton of work out of many universities documenting water clarity and the percent volume inhabited by submerged aquatic vegetation. I think there is a lot of low hanging fruit by getting submerged plants and stormwater conveyances and filtering out water. So we chose the furthest upstream areas in Crystal River to work in. I'm talking about upland cut canals with 3 to 7 feet of organic and tidal material where they just became centers where the Lingia would grow. The Lingia throughout its process will float up to the surface and absorb nitrogen and sink back down as it degasses. So all the nutrients you could ever take out of the system is still going to come up and absorb atmospheric nitrogen and recycle the phosphorus. So it was a really big issue, but we figured if we started at the upstream side and worked our way down, it would work. The model, we treat it like we're farming, right? When you're farming, first what you have to do is you got to get the ground right. So Crystal River has a lot of manatees, but manatees get a bad rap. Everything's out there eating seagrass. We've had projects impacted by turtles, ducks, snails, deer, manatee, horseshoe crabs, sea urchins. It's the basis of a primary producer. Everything's coming to eat it, right? So what was happening in Crystal River, they lost their plants. And by the way, I know Miami folks claim to tons of invasive species, but Crystal River is the first place hydrilla was found in the US. And so these plants are trying to grow through this muck, but every time they do, a manatee would come in and eat it. Well, the ground was soft, so it would pull the roots and the rhizomes up in the plants. So what we figured out is if we got down to hard mineralized sediment, as that manatee's coming along to eat, the leaves of the plant are breaking off, the rhizomes stay back, and the nutrients are going up the food web, and then a new leaf, a new plant is coming out. So we vacuum dredged it, these upland cut canals, we grew out native eelgrasses. It's a submerged aquatic plant, and there are many of them that act a lot different, right? Like just like in any genetic expression, some are really fast growing, some are salinity tolerant, some are light tolerant. There's a lot of variability in between these plants. And so what we chose to start with is a native plant that is a really fast growing plant. We planted it, we protected it. It's really, protection is really important. And then what happens is the manatees will sit on the exclusion cages, which are about the size of this table. They sit on like a cow in a haven. And so what you want to do is plant not inside the protected area, but outside as well. The whole key is trying to get them to browse. And then you have to maintain and you have to monitor. The scale of the project, Lisa went over, it's massive. So I love talking about the success, but I learned more through like what went wrong, right? So here's a perfect example of is grazing outside of an exclusion gate. And so just protecting the plant long enough creates resilience in the project. So if the seagrass or the SAV in this case is able to be protected in seed, those seeds hopefully are falling within your project and creating resilience over time. On the bottom right, that's in the Indian River Lagoon. We have big issues with stingrays coming in. Every time you get a plant to start growing out the size of a hula hoop, here comes stingrays coming down to bury into it. Nowadays, 10 years ago, a 22-foot Mako center console would have been a big boat. Now you see 31 contenders and HCVs are small boats. We're losing, especially in Tampa Bay, we're losing our longshore bars, making our seagrasses more susceptible. And it's not always water quality, but the plant's not there. It's a game of net losses, and you get it back the same way you lost it, is figuring out what are the rate limiting steps that you have to overcome, and then just tackle them. Whether that's creating longshore bars, breakwaters. What is success? Success is going to differ between everyone here. To me, the success of Crystal River was going from a algae dominated system back to a plant dominated system, and the results expanding outside of the project footprint. So not only did the project footprint work, but it expanded outside. And that's the true cost of restoration. The values and the ecosystem services that you gain from not only your project footprint, but outside and beyond. Again, the true success of the project is entirely within the community. And there was a ton of people that said, oh, and people are going to eat all your plants, you waste money. Getting those people on board is not always an option, but Save Crystal River had the fortitude to power through it, and they did. And now everyone loves getting on a moving train that's successful. So thank you so much for having us, and really Save Crystal River is an amazing place to be. So blessed to work there.
Let's do it. Let's do one question, since a lot of people had their hands up. So let's do one, and then whoever has questions afterwards, we still have more networking opportunities once all the panels are done. So
And we'll be around afterwards too.
This is a wonderful section. But have you actually been able to grow seagrass? Because now it's there, it's playing a freshwater flag, freshwater environment. If you guys don't scale seagrass, the species of seagrass.
I don't think you're going to restore Biscayne Bay through direct planting alone. That's just not feasible. It's a game of net sums. Yes, we have planted seagrass.
I'm not aware of ultimate.
So we grow widgeon grass. It's a very prolific cedar, and Haliduli rhydia. We're doing 40 acres in Fort Pierce this summer. Turtle grass, the dinosaurs will walk again before we. Thank you.